Let us have a look at the types of dimension tables. Degenerate dimension, slowly changing dimension, rapidly changing dimension, role-playing dimension, and junk dimension. So let us try to understand these one by one. What is a degenerate dimension? The definition goes as a degenerate dimension is when the dimension attribute is stored as part of the fact table and not in a separate dimension table. To understand this, let us have a look at this table here. We have four columns in this table: invoice number, product ID, quantity, and amount. So if we recall from the previous chapters, we know that each of the dimension attributes can again be expanded into a separate table. So here the invoice number is the only field which cannot be again expressed or which cannot be expanded into a separate table. Such a property and such an attribute is called as degenerate dimension. The dimension which cannot be further degenerated is called as a degenerate dimension. The next we have is slowly changing dimensions. So these dimensions change slowly over a period of time, are called as slowly changing dimensions. So let us assume that a company is selling car accessories. Now have a look at this first table here. The sales representative name is Brett Watson and his ID is 1001. So this person was earlier assigned the location or was assigned the territory Chicago. Now, after a certain period of time, the company has decided to transfer him to a new territory and assign him the new location called as Los Angeles. So his ID, his name is same, but the territory and the location to which he is working now is changed. So this is changing over a period of time, and such dimensions are called as slowly changing dimensions. Now in this we have three types. Type 1, overwriting the history. So in this type, what happens is the previous location, that is Chicago, is replaced in the table by Los Angeles. So there is no record where he was working previous to Los Angeles, previous to his new location. So here we are not preserving any previous record. We are directly replacing the history. So the advantages here is it is the most simplest and the easiest way to implement. It is very effective, and also there is no structure in the table, no addition of new columns or deletion of columns. The disadvantage is no history is preserved here. The second type we have is preserving the history. So instead of directly replacing the value in the table, what happens in the second type is a new row is going to be added to the dimension table, and also a new primary key also will be added every time a change is made. So here we can see that earlier this was his original ID, it was his original location or territory, that is Chicago. Once he got transferred to Los Angeles, the history is also maintained, and along with that a new primary key is generated and the new location is also updated. So in this type 2 we have record of the previous location as well as the new location. So now what are the advantages and disadvantages for this? Here advantages, we get the previous records also, but the disadvantage here is the size of the table goes on increasing. Since newer values are updated and stored in the database, the size of the table goes on increasing, and this may affect the performance as the storage increases. Then we have type 3, reserving one or more versions of the history. Now this approach is mainly used when you have finite number of changes here. Like suppose a company has decided that it will transfer a particular sales representative only 4 times a year. Not more than 4 times the transfers can happen. So in this case, the person will be transferred only 4 number of times, will be assigned a new location only 4 times a year. So when such situations occur wherein we are able to keep track of the history on the previous data, as well as this changes occur finite number of times, at that time the type 3 is used. So the type 3 do not increase the size of the table as compared to type 2. since the old information is updated by adding new information. So if you look at the table structure, here we have his ID, we have the name, we have his original territory, that the first place he was working, that is Chicago. Along with that, we have the new location to where he is transferred, and then we also have from when has this change occurred. So this is type 3.